mode and get at it. Hey everybody, welcome to the call. My name is Steve Bentley, and got a couple people from our Team Isogenics group asked about how I fuel people in the longer endurance events. And I've always been excited about helping people do things and be effective, but in a healthy way. It's actually why I joined Isogenics 13 years ago, because you can do things that work, but they're not necessarily going to be healthy for you. And I'm always interested in doing something in a healthy way. So, as an example, we've got stuff like this. It works, but I would never use it because it's not healthy. So I would use things like this. Exactly. So love the new mango mimosa flavor. Michelle's allergic to mango, so it's all mine, which is great. So I don't have to worry about running out. And but we're going to talk about fueling and strategy, and I've got some notes here so I keep myself on track. But one of the things that I've always done over the years, I've been an Ironman performance coach since 1990, coaching people to over 1,400 Ironman races and thousands of shorter distance events. So I've got a lot of experience on what works and what doesn't work as much. And one of the big problems that I found a lot of people were having over the years is fueling. It doesn't matter how great your training went into the race. If your fueling sucked on the day, especially in those longer events, your digestive system shut down and you just can't perform optimally. And there's an equation problem that usually kicks in because your body can only store so many calories worth of glycogen or carbohydrates, right? For women, it's about 2,000 calories. For guys, maybe up to 2,500. And you're burning a lot of energy going through an event. Maybe it's 600 to 1,000 calories, depending on how hard you're going. So you're going to eventually run out of fuel, right? If you're burning glycogen, because it's a limited supply. So what do? We refuel during the workout. So a great strategy that I always used over the years was gels. I was sponsored by Power Bar, so I got boxes of power gels. And at one point, I was just sick of using them. I just felt like I was swallowing a slug, a garden slug. And I was just like, I'm done with this. I got to find a different strategy. So I went to a product called CarboPro. Worked great. It was just a carbohydrate powder. I could probably stack in about 20 scoops of this stuff into a water bottle, bike water bottle. It was about 2,000 calories. And in an Ironman, I figured I could get in about 400 calories an hour. In a 5-hour bike ride, that's 2,000 calories. That would supply my energy. And I'm out in an Ironman between 9 and 10 hours. So it's not a terribly long period of time, but going that hard, your digestive system starts to shut down. Because as you're training, especially in endurance events, when you're working hard, all that blood is in your body, your limbs, like your legs, right? It's not in around your stomach, so your digestive ability goes down. And if you're packing in a lot of carbohydrates, it gets a concentration becomes too high, and then your stomach starts to shut down. So if you've ever done any endurance events like Ironman, sometimes half Ironman, depending on how long you're out there, you feel like your stomach is just backing up. It feels like it's all just sloshing around with water. You feel like you want to throw up, but you can't. And you think, I must be drinking too much. So usually what happens is people back off the hydration and they increase the calories. That's the opposite. What's the problem is actually the concentration of carbohydrates is too high in your stomach. It can't process things out, so it just sits there. So you fail to dump the fuel into your system, the water and the electrolytes, so you end up getting dehydrated, you're bonking because you're not getting enough energy through, and then your muscles start cramping because your electrolytes are a mess. So the answer that we found over the years is to reduce the amount of fuel that you're bringing into your system, but still be able to perform at an optimal level. So there's a few things I'm going to have you think about. And I'm going to give you an example of my wife, Michelle, over here, because just the numbers clicked in so perfectly. And if we go back to the equation problem that we're going to have, if you're a woman, 2,000 calories is all you can store in muscle glycogen in your muscles and liver, and a guy 2,500, if you're working out hard, you're burning 600 to 1,000 calories an hour, and you're only able to ingest a couple of hundred, say 200 to 400 calories an hour, eventually you're going to run out of fuel, right? And it could be between, I wrote down here, between 3 and 7 hours. If you've ever done a marathon and you're working really hard, you hit that wall around 30 kilometers because your glycogen levels are tanked out. And you want to be able to refuel during it, but the harder you go, the harder it is to refuel. And if you're bringing a lot of sugars into your system, you're really riding the line between shutting your stomach down and then just stopping all kinds of digestion. So what we figured out that worked really well is to move to a different type of fuel source. It's still carbohydrates. I'm not saying don't fuel with carbs, right? It's generally too hard to break down protein and fats during a workout. You want to get some kind of carbohydrate in because it's a great, easy to burn fuel source. But the issue that we're trying to do is bring in carbs, but not shut down fat burning, okay? And a lot of times when you're bringing in a really simple sugar like a Carbo Pro mix or a gel, that is going to shut down your body's ability to access fat effectively. You're still burning fat, you're still breaking down protein, but you're burning mainly carbohydrates. And when you stay in that zone of burning carbs, now you're kind of locking in towards the muscle glycogen as well, because you're lowering your ability to access fat. So we want to do a couple things. Number one, we want to make that fat available for fuel. So I'm going to talk about the Isagenix 30-day system and why that's amazing for every athlete. I don't care how lean you are. I'm going to tell you my story. I started Isagenix, I was 6% body fat. I said no to Isagenix initially because I thought it was a weight loss program. The last thing I needed to do was lose weight. When it was windy outside, like a day like today, I had to wear my heavy shoes because the wind would blow me away. I was just like I'm 5'11", I was 158 pounds. Fast, but big legs and lungs, but not very heavy. So I didn't want to lose weight, but I wanted to recover faster and I wanted to access fat better for fuel. So when the lady that eventually told me about Isagenix that got me started, explained it in that way, I was like, oh, I'm interested in that. So I got started on the program. I actually gained 1.5 pounds doing that 30-day system. In the first 2 weeks, I did it as a 9-day, and I gained 1.5 pounds because I put on more muscle than I'd lost in fat. I leaned out a little, but I gained muscle because it was such a great protein source. And the thing I noticed more than anything was recovery. And we're going to talk a little bit about performance. So performance in a race, especially an endurance race, is based on your fueling. But performance in general isn't based on your training. That's potential for performance. Your actual performance is based on your recovery. So if you eat like crap, or if you're like most people, like, I eat healthy. No, if you eat healthy, really what that means is you just don't eat crappy food. You're avoiding chemicals and GMOs and trans fats and garbage, but you're usually eating neutral because food today is so nutritionally deficient. You have to add in an optimal fuel system that's got a lot of nutrition in it. And so for me, it's Isagenix. So it's just a simple, super cost-effective system. I get my vitamins, I get my minerals, I get all the nutrients that my body needs, and it lights it up. And I don't have to worry about how to get proper nutritionally dense foods in because they don't exist in the stores. It doesn't pay the store to pay the farmer to make a really nutritious food because it's going to cost more and people just aren't going to buy it. You get a really nutritious tomato next to a conventionally grown tomato. They look exactly the same. Why would somebody spend $5 a pound for a really nutritionally dense tomato that may be nutritionally dense, or 50 cents a pound for the crappy tomato? Most people are going to go to the crappy tomato. And the store does not want to have that $5 a pound tomato going rotten because nobody buys it. So they just don't buy it. So what you have access to in a store, especially in a restaurant, is garbage quality food. It's food, it might taste okay, but there's no nutritional value in it. And because of that, most people aren't getting the building blocks in their body that they need. So when they break their body down in training, because that's what we're trying to do, create stress and adapt to that, your body's not recovering properly. So this thing that everybody I get on Isagenix notices, my recovery is so much faster, so much more complete, right? My performance is improving so much and I'm getting more out of it. I don't need to train as much. A good example is Michelle. She used to train 20, 30 hours a week and get her going on Isagenix. Now she does 11, 12 hours a week of training for Ironman, and she's 25% faster now than she ever was before, and she's doing half as much training because she's getting better quality workouts in. She's recovering faster and more completely. So anyways, back on track. So that equation problem is if you're focusing on a carbohydrate, you're going to run out of energy at some point in time because you're trying to make up for what you're burning, and you can only digest a certain amount before you're overloading your system. So the solution is to increase the percentage of fat that we're accessing in our body. So back my initial story, I'm 6% body fat. I had about 10 pounds of fat on my body. So keep in mind, I can only store about 2,500 calories of glycogen. Every pound of fat is 3,500 calories of potential energy. That's 35,000 calories of fat energy I've got in my body versus 2,500 calories of glycogen stored in my muscles and liver. Why would I want to rely on a really tiny amount of glycogen energy when I've got all of this fat in my system? And it really made sense to me when Dr. Plant was talking about the Be Energy drink, and there's 7 servings of fruits and vegetables in here from raw, unpasteurized nutrition. Don't know if you remember that call. If you're not in Isogenics, you haven't heard it at all. But if you are in Isogenics, you heard him talk about how the nutrients in this drink, because they're raw in whole food and unpasteurized, they haven't been denatured or destroyed. The nutrition in here acts as a little ignition switch for the fuel that's in your body, right? We want that nutrition to unlock the energy in our body so that it's available for us to use. There is no shortage of energy on us. I'm not 6% body fat anymore. I probably have 50, 60,000 calories of fat on me now. I'm still in great shape. I'm 54 years old in a month. I've never felt this good because I've been getting this nutrition into my body for the last 13 years. Every single day I'm adding it in, and my cells are always regenerating. I'm breaking them down, they're regenerating, they're growing, and they're always regenerating with optimal nutrition. So the goal for me when I'm working with an athlete to get them fat adapted is to cleanse their cells, especially their fat cells, so we can access that fat for fuel, because it is a fuel source I want to tap into. Again, you're still burning carbohydrates in a race, but we want to go to a carb source that's low glycemic on the index scale so that it doesn't shut down your body's ability to access fat. Because the higher the glycemic index of a food, the more simple it is, the more likely your insulin levels are going to jack up, and the less likely you're going to be able to access that fat for fuel. You're just going to reduce the percentage. I want to maximize a percentage. So we can do that by a couple things. Number one, a 30-day isogenic system. You're going to do a couple shakes a day, and you're going to do a couple cleansing days. Ideally, I do 2 cleansing days in a row, because if I'm going to do a cleanse day, I want to do 2 in a row. That second day is 4 times the benefit of just doing 1 a week. So I'm going to do 2 in a row. And sometimes I'll even do 3. I'll even do 3 cleanse days in a row. Like, people fast for way longer than that. You're not going to have any problem going for longer than 2 days. Isogenics just says 2 days because most people can only handle that. Right? I had a hard time getting my head around it when I first, you want me to not eat for 2 days? People, are you new? Like, I eat every 2 hours. What are you talking about? So when you get used to it, like I did a cleanse day Monday, Tuesday, and I did a hour-and-a-half hard workout in the morning. And then the next day, I went for a 10-mile hike up and down hills with a 50-pound pack on my back, because I want to be really aerobic and burn through a lot of energy but stay in that fat burning zone. So I'm going to get more specific on the actual strategy, but I'm just giving you the sort of the outline. So we want to increase our access to and utilization of fats. We're going to do that by freeing that fat up by doing a 30-day system. So initially, that first 30 days, I don't care how lean you are, we're doing that to cleanse your body of toxins. And I'm not talking colon cleansing, I'm just talking cellular cleansing. Take advantage of the fasting to force your body to regenerate. That's why I do fasting and cleansing days all the time. I'm not concerned really about toxins. I'm not even concerned about increasing my fat utilization on where I want to be. But I want to force my body to recycle old, inefficient, damaged cells. And that has nothing to do with isogenics. That's just fasting in general gets me to go through a process called autophagy or apoptosis, however you want to look at it. And it's just that programmed death of cells. I want to go in and recycle all those old, inefficient, damaged cells. And when I start eating again, stem cell production kicks in, and then I regenerate healthier, fresher, more vibrant cells. The more often you do that, the higher percentage of fresher, healthier, more vibrant cells you've got in your body. As an athlete, why would you not want to fast, right? You want to get those higher percentage of cells coming into your system all the time. You want to go in and get rid of old, damaged cells. So I wasn't recording, I would talk a little bit more about what I think old damaged cells are going to do in your body and why I don't want them in there, but I'll let you use your imagination on that. I don't want damaged cells in my body, so I'm going to fast in order to get rid of that stuff, okay? But as we do that, we add in the cleansing drink, the minerals in the Cleanse for Life, this stuff here, it actually goes in, supports your liver enzymes, and allows your body to convert these fat-soluble toxins into a water-soluble form so you can eliminate them. And those toxins are quite often, because they're fat soluble, are stored in fat cells. And when they're stored in fat cells, the fat cells are locked onto the toxins, and it's going to be really hard for me to access that fat as a fuel source. That's why I want to cleanse first. And then later, when we're going to say, if I get somebody just starting cleansing, I'm not going to have them train the first couple cleansing days because I don't know how they're going to react. Just chill, take it easy, don't do anything. Like, chances are you're going to feel pretty good. You're going to be hungry. Hungry is not going to kill you. That's just your brain saying, hey, you better eat something or you're going to die, right? That's what you think it's going to say. But if you didn't interrupt it and say, or you're going to die, it actually would say this: you need to eat something, or else we're going to be forced to be turned into an amazing fat burning machine. And that is way too much work. So just eat a Snickers bar or have a chocolate or anything. When I'm doing fasting days, I don't need anything. Nothing comes in my mouth except water, cleanse drink, and maybe a beer in the afternoon. That is it. And some salt, maybe some electrolyte like pink sea salt. Put that in my water. That's it. And we got Michelle up to the point where she can do a 5-hour bike ride on the second day of a 2-day cleanse and cruise along at 20 miles an hour. And all she's doing is drinking cleanse drink and having water with salt in it. So fat adapted. Now, 20 miles an hour is not fast enough to go on an Ironman for her because she's a 5-hour, 10-minute Ironman biker. So we're going to have to add in some extra fuel to allow her to do that. But what kind of fuel? Because if we add in simple sugars, that's going to jack up her insulin and it's going to shut down her body's ability to access fat. And then she's going to be locked onto the carbs and the glycogen, which is a limited supply. So what we found, and I should have brought a canister, but you just go to bodybuilding.com, and it's a big orange canister, and it's from a company called Now Sports. If Isogenics made something like this, I totally tell you to get it from them, but they don't. So go to Now Sports, and you're looking for a product called Waxy Maize, M-A-I-Z, because I'm in the US now, E, Waxy Maize. It's about $30 for a 5 or 5.5 pound container. So that's about $5 a pound. The stuff we were using before was UCAN, and it's $40 a pound. So when I first told Michelle about the Waxy Maize and I tried to get her to do that, she wouldn't do it because it was so inexpensive. She was so used to spending $40 a pound for the UCAN, she didn't even want to try it. But I convinced her to try it, and it actually works better. It gives her less gas, and it keeps her feeling full longer, which is great because when you're out there, you don't want to feel hungry. But it just tastes like chalky water. So I'm going to go into the specific way of doing it, but just understand that over the last 30 years of me working with people, every single time I've had an athlete do one of those 1,400 Ironman races, I had them fill out a strategy of what they were going to do for their fueling. So that you might talk to somebody who says, oh, this is the way you need to do it, and this worked great for me. Hey, that's awesome. I've got 1,400 case studies of people that have done things in many different conditions, many different ages, men and women all over the world. You do what you want. I don't ever try and convince somebody to do what I do. I'm just telling you how I figured this out and the experience that I've gone through to get to the point that I'm at now. And I used to be married to a lady who was the #3 ranked Ironman pro triathlete in the world for 7 years. And a lot of the nutrition and fueling that went into figuring out what she was doing in those races gone into figuring out the strategy as well. So #1, I keep everything separate. I'm either having just water, just fuel, and just salt. And the salt, I got an itchy nose here, just a second. The salt, for me, we just use pink Himalayan sea salt. It's super inexpensive. You know, sometimes Michelle race with base performance salt. It's good stuff. Pink sea salt is great. Just grab that. It's electrolytes, got a good blend. It's going to give your muscles the minerals that it needs to fire properly. But here's the thing, don't ever mix things together. Like there's companies out there that have a pre-mixture of carbs, electrolytes, and water, and you mix it in a drink and you drink it. Well, now you're kind of stuck with that particular mixture. And if the conditions change or you're getting overloaded on fuel or under-fueled, it's really hard to change things. But if you keep everything separate, it's so easy. You just have one bottle of this Waxy Maize, and you can pack it in. It mixes it like a chalky mixture. You just got to keep shaking it because it settles really quickly. But you can put all the fuel you need in a water bottle and carry that for an entire Ironman or any length of race that you're doing. Right? You don't need bottles and bottles of all this mixture because most of the thing that's in that mixture is going to be water. Well, you can get water on the course from anywhere. So just have water on your bike in a bottle. You can refill that at all the aid stations or toss that bottle and grab another one. Salt is easy. You just put it in a little tube. Base salt comes with little tubes, or you can put it in a baggie or some other form. Just have sea salt in your, like, put it down your top, or I just stick it in my bike short leg, and then just fuel the thing. And then you just got to remember, okay, I've got a particular interval that I'm going to be fueling with. So for us, it's like every half hour, we're going to get the fuel in. We don't want to be fueling all the time, because then you're constantly diluting what you're digesting in your system. So we do a fueling every half hour. And then every 15 minutes, we take a couple licks of the sea salt. So you can either lick it right out of the tube, or lick your thumb, put it over the tube, shake it, lick that off, and just put it right in your mouth, and just mainlining it right into your mouth. Put it under your tongue, let it absorb quickly, and then you're just drinking water as you're riding along. So here's the window that you want to figure out, right? What's the maximum amount of fuel, electrolytes, and water that you can pack into your system at a particular pace, right? That's your upper limit. And then what's your lower limit? What can you get away with and still go the pace that you want to go? Like, you're going to pick a particular effort or pace. What's the minimum amount of water, electrolyte, and fuel that you can bring in to go that pace? That's your lower limit. And then in a race, you're just going to go halfway between the two. So you're way below what's going to make you sick, and you're way over what you need to do the pace that you're at. Like, it's such an easy way to figure things out. It's not that complicated, right? And then the other thing I want you to think about too is, when you have everything separate like that, it's very adjustable. So if you feel like you're getting too much fuel or not enough fuel, you can adapt really quickly by just backing off. And if you ever felt like you were getting overloaded and your stomach's getting bloated, the little formula that I always came up with that seemed to work really well is just back off 20% effort for about 20 minutes. That lets things redigest, flow through your system, and then you're good to go again. How to specifically use the waxy maize though? I would do, and there's so many different products that Isagenix has. I did a call last Thursday for Isagenix Corporate, so you can go to isagenixbusiness.com/calls, and at the bottom of the past calls page, right at the bottom, you'll see the April 30th call, and I talk about all the different products that I love from Isagenix that are great for performance besides the 30-day. But obviously, I didn't talk about waxy maize there, and when Amy and Tammy and I were talking on the Team Isagenix side, we were talking about fueling. So I was okay, I can chat with you a little bit more about that. So this waxy maize, this is how specifically you want to use it, okay? It's a little tricky. You're gonna put about, a scoop is about 150 calories. So put 1 or 2 scoops about an hour and a half to 2 hours before your workout. Okay, you're gonna put 1 or 2 scoops of that, so about 150 to 300 calories in a bottle. You're gonna drink that down an hour and a half to 2 hours before your workout. And then take the amount of fuel that you need for the workout and take that right at the beginning of the workout, and then about every half hour through the workout. Like, super simple. That works really well, okay? If you're gonna take things like Nox or Nitro or other things like that, take that right before the workout as well. And then once you get into the activity, you're gonna burn through those sugars pretty quickly. So even though they're a little high glycemic, you're gonna burn through them fast. I don't ever have a shake beforehand. We don't eat anything before a long workout. We could go out, do a 3 or 5 hour bike ride. We're just gonna have that waxy maize a bit before the workout, and then every half hour through the workout, and that's gonna be enough to get us to do that. So I'm jumping around a little bit. Let me jump into specifically figuring out how to fuel yourself and what you're gonna use. First of all, what you wanna think about is going through that 30-day system. The first time you do a couple cleansing days, like if you've been doing Isagenix for all, just get into what I'm about to say. But if you haven't, or you're coaching somebody that hasn't done it, just have them do the first 2 cleansing days and not train. Just like chill, take it easy. But when you're ready to get at it, the first day you want to think about, okay, I'm just trying to burn through as much muscle glycogen and liver glycogen as possible. So I'm lowering my glycogen levels in my system so I don't have any left. So my body's going to be forced to go after fat for fuel. Okay, does that make sense? And this is why I don't eat snacks on a cleansing day, because all I'm really saying to my body is, hey, don't go after the fat, just hang on every couple of hours. We're going to give you a little bit of food, right? So I just don't eat anything. And it says, okay, if you're just going to be like that, we're going to have to go after the fat. So I'm going to do a hard workout the first morning, about an hour and a half. Could be a hard weight session. You could go for a run. You know, I think everybody here typically trains in the morning. right? It's not like you have to eat something before you train and then you have a shake right afterwards to refuel. So keep in mind, a lot of nutrition in the Isogenics Cleanse for Life. So it's not like you're depriving your body of nutrition. And also keep in mind that as you go through this fasting, your body's going through apoptosis. It's taking that old damaged cellular material that you're trying to get rid of, it's recycling it. It's going to take that old protein that you're wanting to get rid of. So do we burn through some muscle fibers? I hope so. I want those old muscle fibers out of my body so I can replace them with healthier, more vibrant muscle fibers. But what am I going to do with that old muscle material? I'm going to use it to regrow other muscle material. It's not going anywhere, right? It's not like fat turns to muscle. Muscle turns to muscle. We're going to take those building blocks. So I don't have a problem working out hard on a cleansing day because my body's got its own internal energy source that it's going to utilize. So the first day, you're really just working out hard like you normally would any other day. You're just cleansing afterwards. You're going to burn through that muscle glycogen. Now, the second day, go for an easy aerobic workout. If you're a really good athlete, it could be an easy run, right? For most people, it's going to be an aerobic bike ride for a few hours. For some people, it might be a brisk walk. It doesn't matter, right? You should be able to talk and carry on a conversation just like I'm doing right now, with whatever you're doing. If you're out of breath, you're going too hard. You're going to kick out of that fat burning zone. So what we're trying to do is stay at a low level and stay really aerobic. We got no glycogen basically in our system anymore. So we're going to be forced to go after fat for fuel. And all you're doing is teaching your body to get better and better at accessing fat. Does that make sense? Right? It's like the first time you go running and you haven't run in a long time. Do you feel like crap? I know I do, right? You don't say to yourself, oh, this isn't for me. I'm never doing this again. I'm never going to get to that marathon distance. No, you go, okay, I'm just going to go a little shorter today. I'm going to adapt and recover. And then next time I go out, I'm going to go a little bit longer because I'm going to be a bit better. It's the same thing with fat burning. Most people try it and they suck at it and they think this isn't for me. I'm a carb burner, and they don't do it anymore. Well, hey, that's awesome. Less competition for my athletes when people think that way. But if you want to get better at something, just keep doing it. You're going to adapt and you're going to get better. So somebody asked me right before the call, how long does it take? So I think Michelle did a really good job of it. She's got a bachelor's degree in kinesiology and exercise science, so she understands all this stuff. And I learned a lot from just watching her go through the program. It took her about 3 months to get to that point where she could go for a 5-hour bike ride at 20 miles an hour on the second day of a 2-day cleanse and just cruise along at it and no problem whatsoever. So it's going to take a few months. So what does that look like? After that first 30 days, so you're going to do 2 cleansing days in a row and just chill. The second 2 cleansing days, you're going to start training. Now, you might only get to 2 hours on that second day before you start to peter out and run out of energy and not feel so good. Okay, there's your limit. The next time you do a couple cleansing days, maybe take a couple weeks, get back to training, refuel with the shakes, get that nutrition in, and then do another double cleansing day. Same thing, first day, hard workout, burn through that glycogen. Next day, long, easy aerobic workout. Maybe you go 3 hours that time. And then give it a break for a couple of weeks. Do another 2-day cleanse. Same thing, hard workout the first day, longer aerobic workout the second day. Maybe you're up to 4 hours. So it took her about 3 months of doing double cleansing days every month for that 3 months to get to that point where she could feel really good about just going out there and going at that pace. Now, again, that's not her race pace. She needs extra energy. So over time, you're not using any waxy maize initially, right? You're just forcing your body to stay low level, maybe increasing your distance and intensity over time, but you're still not fueling enough. And then you get to the point where like, okay, I think I've kind of got as fat adapted as I possibly can get right now, or what's more practical for people is I got a race coming up, so I need to increase the intensity to get race ready. So then what you do is you add in the waxy maize then, and then you start to increase the intensity a little bit more. And because now you might be coming out of that fat burning zone, but that's okay. You're giving your body a low glycemic index carb that's going to keep you in that fat burning state, not kick you into a glycolic energy system. And specifically for Michelle, when she was, before I got training her, she was doing 270 calories an hour was what she was bringing in gels or some other products that were kind of more simple sugar, always shutting down her system. So in half Ironman, she was able to manage that. Ironman never had a good race because her digestion or fueling always sucked. And now she does 35 calories an hour of waxy maize. So remember I said start with about 100 calories, because you're probably not going to be good at pulling as much fat out of your system. So you're going to have a little bit more waxy maize to make up for the fact that you're not as good at accessing that fat for fuel. But over time, you're going to get better and better. So I think she started at about 80 or 90 calories an hour. And then she got down, she just realized, hey, I don't need as much fuel, because you're going out and still practicing. As you adapt, you're going to do those different windows. What's the most I can get into my system? What's the least I need? The most is probably going to kind of stay kind of like static. It's not going to change too much, but the minimum amount that you're going to need should go down when it comes to fuel. So 35 calories an hour, she never has a digestive issue in an Ironman. So the big thing that kills most people in an endurance sport isn't their fitness going into it, it's their fueling. Now she's just completely eliminated any fueling issues because she's not getting anywhere near maximum amount of fuel, and it's going to shut down her stomach. 35 calories an hour is nothing. Like, she keeps threatening that she could do this on no fuel. And I'm like, just get something in, like, don't freak me out. So 35 calories an hour is nothing. That's not going to shut things down. So just do that. So that's all she does now. And it works really, really well. In shorter races, like a half Ironman now, she'll still do the waxy maize before the race because it works so well. Coming out of the water, she'll have a BIA energy drink right before the race because it's so awesome for stress adaptation and helping unlock that energy. And then in through the bike, she'll use the waxy maize, and then onto the run, she's going to go back more to simple sugar because she's not out there for long enough. So you want that more simple sugar when you're going harder. So a half Ironman at her ability now is she can go hard and want that extra energy, but she's not doing it for long enough to shut her stomach down. So play around with that, figure out, okay, well, how long can I eat things like gels? And she has a homemade gel recipe that I'll find and post somewhere around the recording that I put up for this. I'll put it in our Team Isogenics thread. And it's got like brown rice syrup, honey, coffee grounds, chia seeds. There's coconut water. Like, it's really natural and simple, and it actually tastes really good. And it's just like a gel. It just works that way. So she'll use that as she gets towards the end of a half Ironman or an Ironman run, because she needs that extra kick for the finish. And it doesn't matter if it starts to overload her system because she's going to be done. So anyways, I think that's it. I'm going to finish by saying, if you're catching this recording or you're watching this live and you're not in Isogenics, get back to the person that added you to this call or sent you the recording so they can get you started and tell you a lot more about it. And they know about this stuff, and they're going to be able to guide you properly through how to utilize it. Also do that with them. But I think I'm done. I don't think I had anything else to say. I think I covered most of it. But I'll open it up here for questions if anybody has any, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to unmute everybody. Or actually, no, I'll just leave everybody muted. You can unmute yourself if you have any questions. So, and there we go.
Steven, I just wanted to say thank you, and this makes perfect sense. So thank you.
Yeah, no worries, Kellen.
Yeah,
Thanks
Steve.
for jumping on the call.
That was really good.
Cool. Thanks, Lynn. Good to see you. Danielle.
Yeah, same here. Like, I know cleansing is vital my best training is always when I'm being consistent with cleansing, for sure.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of things I have been doing, the questions I had for you, was adaptogens. I use the e-shots every hour on the hour. So, those are what, 35 calories. That's a simple sugar, correct?
Yeah, it's a little simple. You can get away with stuff like that if you're just taking a little bit, because it's not that much and you're burning it really quickly.
Yeah.
A gel though, like when I was racing, I would take a gel in, which is 100 calories. I would do that every 20 minutes. Right? And then or 15 to 20 minutes, like, it's a lot. I was backing in 300 plus to 400 calories an hour when I was racing, and it was just kind of shutting my stomach down. So going to things like waxy maize, which is way less simple, way more complex, just didn't instigate that insulin spike, and it just allowed me to access fat for fuel. Like, try this. Like, this will happen because we did it, and a bunch of athletes have done it over the time. As you're going through this process of getting fat adapted and you're not eating anything beforehand and you're getting better at going longer and longer, have a shake right before your workout, like a normal isolene shake with 24 grams of carbs in there, or maybe even a banana in there. Like, go back to your normal thing. If you did oatmeal or whatever before workout, do that right before the workout instead of doing the waxy maize, and then go out for your workout. You'll feel pretty good for the first half hour or so. and then you're gonna crash hard because you're not eating enough through the workout. You're just getting this little bit of waxy maize in, but your body's looking for sugars because you had that simple sugar right before the workout, and then all of a sudden you run out of it because you're not fueling with sugars. Your glycogen levels are starting to go down and you can't access that. You're gonna start feeling really cruddy for a while. And then you're gonna kick in with the waxy maize and your energy is gonna come back up. It's a really weird feeling when you get fat adapted. You don't wanna go to sugars to fuel your workouts, especially for those longer, more aerobic workouts that you can go through any workout for like an hour and a half. I could go through that run without fueling. About a 2.5 hour bike ride I could get through without fueling, but longer than that, I'm gonna start fueling right from the beginning because I need to support that energy to last through that whole workout.
What's in waxy maize? What's the ingredients? Do you know?
Yeah, it's a cornstarch. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that product I told you about, it's all GMO free. It's super natural and healthy. I would use it if it wasn't. So.
Yeah, I figured. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? I know we covered a lot of stuff. If you have questions that pop up later, y'all can message me. I'm pretty
Yeah, I
happy.
have one more.
No, you're out. You know more from you.
Okay.
Joking. Joking.
All right, so like I noticed the difference between long runs and then like tempo runs. Like, the intensity level is like different. So how are you fueling differently during those times? Or do you?
Yeah, so for a tempo run, that's typically not going to be that long. I probably wouldn't fuel. Like
Okay.
I might have now that the amped hydrate doesn't have sugar in it, I might use that just for the electrolytes in it and the different tastes. But I'm usually just water and sea salt is most of the time what I'm doing because I've got glycogen in my muscles. So a shorter workout I'm gonna get what I need out of that. I don't need to fuel. Here's what I see with a lot of athletes. Like when I started doing triathlons, and I think it's great what I see now, but when I started doing triathlons back in the 1980s, everybody was super skinny. Like it was weird, like super lean, and that was kind of the thing. Everybody was like that. I go to a triathlon now. Hey, I love the participation. I love that everybody's there doing it of all different sizes, but there's a lot of bigger people there. And a big part of that is because they're jamming sugar in their face all the time to fuel. Every single workout, like I'm getting my Gatorade in and I'm fueling with this and I got to get my gels in to do any type of workout. You don't need that much sugar. And now your body's constantly, if you think about it this way, the more sugary things you got into your system, right, the more your insulin level is going to be higher and the more in a fat storing state you're going to be. The goal is to keep your insulin levels as low as possible, as long as possible, all the time, so that you're in a fat burning state. So when I say fat adapted, I also want you to think fat burning state all the time. So if you're overweight, there's a good chance insulin is high all the time. You're you're insensitive. Your blood sugar is really high. You're constantly your body's constantly trying to store blood sugar into glycogen. It's not good at it. So what happens is you keep storing fat all the time, right? You want to be in that fat burning state all the time. So keeping your insulin levels under the control. So that's why like a keto program will work effectively for people, certainly for a short period of time. I think it's a good kickstart. I don't think it's great to do long-term, but even eating in a keto way, you can still eat with higher carbs keto, just make them more complex. Like I can stay in a nutritional ketosis state and eat over 100 grams of carbs a day, but my carbs are complex. They're coming in with protein and fat. That's why our isolene shakes are low glycemic. Even though they got 24 grams of carbs in them, they're low glycemic because there's so much protein and fat in them, right? And then the third thing I'm going to do is always have those carbs coming in right before, during, or right after exercise, because you need nowhere near as much insulin to process that blood sugar out of your system if you're exercising, because your body's burning the fuel and you're a lot more insulin sensitive to it when you're exercising, so you don't need as much. And because you don't need as much, you're less likely to be in a fat storing state if you're having your carbs in around exercise. So like say you work, like this is a weird way to think about it, but if you love ice cream and you work out in the morning, have the bowl of ice cream right after your workout in the morning, not at night before you go to bed. Like that's the worst time to have a bowl of ice cream, or, like my thing, I love cereal, right? So I'm gonna have cereal before I go to bed. Terrible for keeping you in a fat burning state. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, it does.
Cool. Yeah, I don't see any other questions here, but does anybody have any other questions? Cool. Well, I'll post this recording. I'll put it on my timeline so you can find it there. I'll put it in the Team Isogenics thread. If you have any questions that pop up afterwards or when you're listening to the recording, just let me know. Happy to help you out. So.
Steve, I just have a quick question.
Yep.
I know that it shouldn't matter, but for athletes and endurance, but I'm just curious. Mm-hmm. Does the Waxy Maize have a is it flavorless or is it pretty yucky and you just have to get used to the taste?
There's no flavor to it. So, one of the things you could do, you could probably, now that our hydrate doesn't have any sugar in it, you could actually add some of that hydrate to it to jazz up the flavor. When I'm working out, I don't care what something tastes like. Like it tastes like chalky water, right? Because it's just like a chalky substance. It just settles really quickly into your water. So you always want to shake it right before you drink it. The problem I have with it is when I'm drinking it right before I go do the workout. I can do just about anything on the bike when I'm working hard, but standing around in my kitchen drinking this chalky water, like an hour and a half, 2 hours before the workout, I'm like, ugh, this is gross. But I know how bad I'm going to feel if I don't, so I just chug it down. But yeah, okay. Adding a little bit of hydrate in there, the non-sugar one, would probably work well. But I'm just lazy, so I just drink it straight. It's not as bad.
Right, so for someone who's been using the products so I've been using the products for like 2.5 years, but I will be honest with you, as an endurance athlete, I am a big gel sucking down those gels, every hour.
And
I know they're awful, right? But you feel like crap, like your body, I feel like my body just gets used to it. So do you just say, just go cold turkey, throw the gels out and go order that Waxy Maize?
Here's what I've been telling my athletes, Dan's on the call here, so people I help, is take advantage of the fact that there's no races going on right now, and there aren't for a little while. Like right. This is the perfect time to say, okay, screw the hard training. I'm not tapering peak and power for any particular race. Take a step back. So what? It's May. So let's say it takes 3 months. So you got May, June, July. I don't know any races that are going on in the next little while. There's some that are holding out and they're hoping that they're not going to get canceled. But really, there's 2 reasons why you want to do this. Long term, your performance is going to be way higher. But second, and like I started with, and I totally forgot, so I'm glad you mentioned it, things can work, but they're not necessarily healthy for you. And I'm not saying carbs don't work, but I'm convinced it's not healthy. First of all, I was pre-diabetic pretty much the entire time I raced at an elite level because I was jamming so many carbs and gels into my face all the time. Every single time I went into the hospital for a fasted blood sugar test, they were on my case, right? Because my blood sugar was so high all the time. That's not healthy. I don't care how fit you are, it's not healthy. When you get better at accessing fat for fuel, your heart rate's going to come way down. Michelle's heart rate is about 20 beats a minute lower now than it is when she was racing before on sugars. So her heart rate's way lower for the same effort. Her recovery is way faster. She feels better. She's not sick anywhere near as much. So part of that's nutrition from Isogenics. The other thing is that sugar is very inflammatory in your system, and it's going to allow you to get sick a lot more often. So lowering your sugar intake is going to be a lot better for your health, and I think it's going to be better for your performance. Now, carbs work. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they don't. I just don't think they're a healthy way to go in general. And I think accessing fat for fuel is a better way to go. You just have to supplement it the right way. You can't just burn fat. That's where we found this Waxy Maize. It's a carb source, but it just allows you to stay in that fat burning zone, and I think it works really well. So, but it's the process to get you to it. I'd say give yourself 3 months of hard focus on it to get really good at it. But that doesn't mean you can't do well and get better at accessing fat at a higher percentage over the next month and a half, 2 months, if you want to do that now and then get into the racing scene again. And then at the end of the season, do it again over the winter now that you know how well it's going to work. But I would highly recommend going after it and giving it a shot.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Cool. I think that was it. Cool. Okay, guys, thanks for jumping on the call. Just making sure there was no more questions there. But again, if you have any questions after you come up, if it was like me, as soon as the call ends, then I would remember. So have a great day. We'll talk soon.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, Steve.